I always thought our marriage could withstand anything, until that night at the charity gala turned my whole world upside down. Just one dance. That's all it took for the truth to slap me in the face. I stood there watching as my wife moved to the rhythm in another man's arms, her eyes scanning everywhere except for mine in that crowded room. She swayed with him like I wasn't even there, like I'd vanished. And she had no idea that everything she knew, everything we'd built, was about to come crashing down the second I walked away. Now she's scrambling to explain herself, but some wounds run too deep for apologies to fix. My name's Ethan Larson. I'm 39, and until half a year ago, I thought I was living the kind of marriage most folks only dreamed about. Sophie and I met back in college, dated for a solid 4 years, and then got married in a small, quiet ceremony with a view of Lake Michigan. We settled into a cozy house out in the Milwaukee suburbs, adopted a golden retriever named Max, and figured we'd start a family once the timing felt right. Sophie climbed the ladder at a downtown PR agency, and I carved out a career designing commercial buildings. We weren't rolling in money, but we had enough. We had our Friday night date rituals, spent weekends fixing up the house, and treated ourselves to one good vacation every year. It wasn't a flashy life, but it was ours, and I really believed we were content. My old man used to tell me, Ethan, real marriage ain't about the grand romantic stuff. It's about waking up and choosing each other every single day. And I did. I chose her every single day without a second thought. Even when things weren't perfect, even when we argued about the usual dumb things couples argue about, I never doubted that we were in it for the long haul. While other people griped about their partners, I'd sit back quietly and think, man, I'm lucky Sophie and I aren't like that. I truly believed we were rock solid, untouchable. At least, I did, until that May evening at the charity event. It was one of those fancy black tie galas Sophie's firm always helped organize, this one raising money for cancer research, held at the Ironwood Hotel downtown. She'd been working around the clock on it for weeks, and I was proud to be there with her, even if those events usually bored me half to death. I rented a tux, shined my shoes, and braced myself for a night full of awkward small talk and overpriced drinks. If I could go back, would I change anything? Would I have stayed home, made some excuse, dodged the whole thing? Or would I still have walked through those ballroom doors, completely unaware that my life was about to flip upside down? I honestly don't know. What I do know is that once something's seen, you can't unsee it. Once your heart breaks like that, there's no pretending it didn't happen. And there's no going back to believing the person next to you in bed couldn't possibly hurt you that deeply with just one dance. That ballroom was glowing that night, crystal chandeliers sparkling above, marble floors gleaming, flutes of champagne clinking as Milwaukee's elite chatted about their latest good deeds. Sophie looked incredible in a deep navy dress that hugged her in all the right places, her blonde hair swept up just enough to show off the diamond earrings I'd given her for our 11th anniversary. She leaned in close, fixed my bow tie, and whispered, "You clean up pretty nice, Larson." Her scent hung in the air between us, familiar, but somehow distant, like a memory you can't quite hold on to. The night unfolded just like I expected. I stuck to the same glass of scotch, drifting from one meaningless conversation to the next. Sophie, on the other hand, floated from one group to another, right in her element. Every now and then, she'd flash me a smile from across the room, and I'd remind myself why I kept tagging along to these things. Around 10, the band fired up, and folks started drifting toward the dance floor. I was stuck chatting with a retired architect who wouldn't stop rambling about his golden years designing strip malls. Sophie had wandered off somewhere, probably putting out a last-minute fire for the event. The old man finally paused to nod toward the dance floor and said, "Your wife really knows her stuff. The foundation's lucky to have her." I followed his gaze, and that's when I saw it. There she was, dancing with a man I didn't recognize. Tall, dark-haired, and oozing the kind of charm that either came from old money or new power. His hand rested a little too comfortably on the small of her back as they swayed. But it wasn't just a dance. I've seen her dance with coworkers before. Those were harmless, polite. This was something else entirely. She looked at him like he was the only person in the room, like she hadn't looked at me in years. That mix of curiosity and desire in her eyes made my stomach turn. And what hurt the most wasn't how close they were, or even the way his hands lingered. It was the way she melted into the moment, laughing at something he whispered, completely tuned out from the world around her. From me. From everyone. She danced like I didn't exist, like she wasn't surrounded by friends, coworkers, or her husband of 13 years. I kept waiting for her to glance my way, to acknowledge me somehow, give me something, anything to hold on to. But she never did. She was wrapped up in that slow, private world with him, and I wasn't part of it. My whole body went cold right then, even though the room was warm and packed. I quietly set my empty glass on a table nearby and adjusted my jacket. That architect was still talking, but his words faded into the background like static. I didn't throw a fit. I didn't storm the dance floor. I didn't demand an answer. I just walked away. Just like that. I wondered if she'd even notice. I made my way to the bar and stood there, watching them glide across the room like nothing else mattered. People buzzed around me, but I felt like a ghost. A waiter offered me another drink, and I took it without a word, eyes locked on the scene unfolding in front of me. The music shifted into something slower, something more intimate. Usually, when two people finish a slow dance, they let go and drift back to their corners of the room. But not this time. Instead, he drew her in a little closer, and Sophie, my Sophie, rested against him, as if she found comfort in that moment. I knew that look on her face. I'd seen it years ago, when we first started dating. That mix of awe and desire, like she couldn't believe she'd landed me. But now, that look was pointed at someone else. A stranger. Quite the event. Huh? A voice cut into my thoughts. It was Lily, one of Sophie's co-workers. Your wife really outdid herself with this one. She always does, I replied, somehow keeping my voice steady. Lily followed my gaze toward the dance floor. Her smile faded fast. Oh. I see Lucas is here. I didn't realize he was invited. Lucas. That name hit me like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just some guy she bumped into. He had a name Lily clearly knew, and one that made her uncomfortable enough to mumble an excuse and disappear. I kept watching them. It felt like hours, though it was probably just a few minutes. His hand rested gently on her back. He leaned in, said something that made her throw her head back and laugh like he was the funniest man on earth. Then, for just a second, he leaned in close, his face near her neck. It happened so quickly, I might have doubted I saw it, if it weren't for the way her hand gripped his shoulder right after. That wasn't a first-time flirt. That was muscle memory. This was a dance between two people who knew each other's tempo way too well. I've always prided myself on being the kind of guy who keeps his cool. I don't yell, don't make a scene. I think things through. But watching my wife get lost in another man like that, like I didn't matter, something inside me shifted. And in that moment, I had two choices. I could march over there, call them out in front of everyone, and ruin her big night. Or I could leave quietly and keep what little self-respect I still had. I chose the second. I set my full drink on the bar without taking a sip, straightened my jacket, and headed for the door. No drama. No loud exits. Just one foot in front of the other until the night air hit my face and the music faded behind me. I handed my valet ticket over, and that's when I noticed my hand was shaking. Not from rage, though that was there too, simmering deep. No. It was the awful realization that maybe my marriage had been over for a long time, and I'd just been too blind to see it. When the valet brought my car around, I slipped him a generous tip. Sophie always teased me for that. You don't have to buy kindness, Ethan, she'd say with a grin. I wondered for a second, was Lucas the tipping type? Or was he the kind of guy who expected special treatment just for showing up? I got behind the wheel but didn't start the engine right away. The hotel's grand entrance was still visible in my rearview mirror. People were still arriving, dressed to impress. Part of me, some pathetic part, waited for Sophie to come running out, calling my name, realizing I was gone. But she didn't. I pulled out and just drove. No destination, just aimless turns through downtown Milwaukee, watching the city lights smear across the windshield. My mind kept replaying what I'd seen, trying to make excuses for her, trying to tell myself maybe I'd imagined it. But that lie didn't stand a chance against the memory of her face. The way she looked at him, like I didn't exist. Before I knew it, I'd pulled into the parking lot of O'Connor's, a little dive bar where my buddy James and I used to watch games and shoot the breeze. It wasn't much, but it was dark, quiet, and nobody would bother me there. I found a booth in the back and ordered a whiskey neat. The bartender, a guy who looked like he'd seen every kind of broken-hearted man sit at that bar, didn't ask questions. He just poured the drink and slid it over. 2 glasses in, my phone buzzed. It was Sophie. Where are you? I've been looking everywhere. I stared at the screen, thumbs frozen above the keyboard. 2 hours. It had taken her 2 full hours to realize I was gone. I started typing, deleted it. Typed again. Deleted again. Finally, I sent the only thing that felt right. Meow. 3 dots popped up immediately, then vanished, then popped up again. Are you okay? Did something happen? I laughed out loud. Not a happy laugh, a bitter, hollow one that made the bartender glance my way. Did something happen? Only the complete collapse of everything I thought I knew. I turned off the phone and ordered another drink. She hadn't checked on me for 2 hours. I figured I could give myself at least that long before I had to hear whatever story she'd cooked up. Sitting there, nursing my third whiskey, I realized something. What hurt the most wasn't just the betrayal. It was that when I caught her in that man's arms, there wasn't even a flicker of guilt in her eyes. No regret. No fear of being caught. She didn't think about me at all. And that was when I knew our marriage was truly over. I lost track of time at O'Connor's. By midnight, the place was nearly empty. Just me, the bartender, and a couple of regulars watching the last few minutes of some West Coast game no one really cared about. My phone started buzzing again. Sophie's calls had given way to frantic texts. Another, the bartender asked, nodding toward my empty glass. I shook my head. Better not. You got coffee? He gave a nod like he appreciated the decision and disappeared to brew a fresh pot. I wasn't drunk. 3 whiskeys over a few hours hadn't hit me that hard. But I needed to clear my head. The fog of shock was lifting, and underneath it was this sharp, steady anger. The kind that didn't want to run, it wanted answers. While I waited for the coffee, I finally checked my phone. 14 missed calls. A flood of texts. Each one more frantic than the last. Sophie, are you coming back? Sophie? Ethan? Please answer me. I'm getting worried. At least let me know you're safe. Please come home so we can talk. I'm leaving the gala. I will be home in 25 minutes. That last message had been sent over an hour ago. She was probably home by now, pacing the living room in that blue dress, practicing whatever story she'd come up with. The thought made me feel sick. The bartender set a fresh mug of black coffee in front of me. I thanked him and sat back, weighing my options. I could go home right now and confront her. But what would that solve? We'd end up yelling. She'd cry. I'd probably say something I couldn't take back. Or worse, I'd forgive her, without even knowing what I was forgiving. No, that conversation needed to happen in daylight. Sober. Focused. I pulled out my phone and dialed the one person I knew would pick up, no matter the hour. Ethan? James's voice came through. Alert. Everything okay, man? Not really, I admitted. Can I crash at your place tonight? There was a pause. Yeah, of course. Sophie okay? His concern almost broke me. She's fine. We're not. I'll explain when I get there. 25 minutes later, I was sitting on James's couch with a hot cup of coffee in my hands, walking him through everything that went down at the gala. He didn't interrupt. Just sat there listening, his jaw tightening when I described the way Sophie looked at Lucas, like I wasn't even in the room. Jesus, Ethan, he muttered when I finally stopped. Are you sure it wasn't just? Don't. I cut him off. Don't try to make sense of it. You didn't see them. James ran a hand through his hair. Okay. I believe you. So, what now? I don't know, I said quietly. I need answers before I do anything. You think she'll tell you the truth? I've been dodging that question all night. Probably not right away, but I'll know if she's lying. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Sophie. Please just let me know you're safe. I'm worried sick. I typed back. I'm safe. Staying at James's. We'll talk tomorrow. 3 dots popped up instantly, then vanished. A full minute passed before they reappeared. I'm sorry. Just 2 words. No explanation. No denial. Just, sorry. You can take the guest room, James said, watching me process it. It's not fancy, but the bed's decent. I nodded. Thanks. Don't think I'll sleep much anyway. Want me to come with you tomorrow? The offer hit me right in the chest. No, but thank you. This is something I've got to handle on my own. That night, lying on James's spare bed, I stared up at the ceiling, trying to wrap my head around those 2 little words. I'm sorry. Not it wasn't what it looked like. Not you misunderstood. Just, sorry. Sorry for what? For dancing with him? For letting me see it? Or for everything that might have been happening behind my back long before that night? Deep down, I already knew the answer. Morning came way too bright, sunlight pouring through blinds I didn't think to close. I'd maybe slept 4 hours, dreaming about ballroom dancers whose faces kept shifting until Sophie was dancing with Lucas again and again. I checked my phone, 7 more missed calls from her, and a text from James letting me know he'd gone for his morning run, but left coffee in the kitchen. I took a shower, borrowed a clean t-shirt from James's drawer, and stood in front of the mirror. The guy staring back looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. Dark circles under his eyes, rough stubble across his jaw. a tiredness that didn't come from sleep. Just pain. I drank the coffee and tried to pull myself together. By the time James came back, I had something close to a plan. Not a good plan, but something. "You look like hell," he said, grabbing a water bottle from the fridge. "Feel like it, too," I muttered. "Thanks for letting me stay." "Anytime," he said, leaning on the counter. "You heading home now?" I nodded. "Yeah, I need to get some answers." "And if you don't like what you hear?" That question had been echoing in my head all night. "Then I'll have to figure out what's still worth saving." James gave me a pat on the shoulder. "Call me later, all right? Let me know you're okay." I told James the first would call and headed out. The drive home was a blur, just me and the same questions running laps in my mind. What was Sophie going to say? Would she deny everything? Downplay it? Come clean right away? Each option had its own kind of sting. When I pulled into the driveway, our house looked exactly like it had yesterday. Nothing had changed. That's the cruel part. Your whole world can come crashing down, but the porch light still works, the lawn's still mowed, and the windows still reflect the same sky. Sophie's car was parked out front. I sat there a moment longer, trying to work up the nerve. Then I got out, walked to the door, and let myself in. She was in the kitchen, still in her pajamas, holding a mug of tea like it was the only thing keeping her steady. Her eyes were red and swollen. She'd been crying. "Ethan," she said, voice raw. "Thank God. We need to talk," I said, standing in the doorway while she motioned toward a chair. "I know." She set her mug down, trying to gather herself. "About last night." "Who's Lucas?" I cut in. She froze. Color drained from her face. "How do you?" "Doesn't matter." "Who is he, Sophie?" She took a shaky breath. He works with the foundation. We met a few months ago when we started planning the gala. And nothing. We're colleagues. Friends." I let out a bitter laugh. "Try again. Friends don't dance like that." "It was just a dance, Ethan. You're overreacting." There it was, the downplay. I saw it coming. A dance so intense you didn't even notice your husband walking out of the room. I was busy. It was work. I had responsibilities. Responsibilities that included letting a stranger hold you like that. I shot back. Her face flushed. "That's not fair." "No," I said, the anger boiling just beneath the surface. "What's not fair is watching my wife look at another man the way she used to look at me. What's not fair is realizing I've been blind to the signs, and you let me stay blind." I drew in a slow, deep breath. "I'm only going to ask this once, and I want the truth. Is there something going on between you and Lucas?" She dropped her gaze. Right there, in that silence, I already knew the answer. "I don't know how to define it," she finally whispered. "Were you intimate with him?" The words came out like glass in my throat. "No. God, no. It's not like that." "Then what is it, Sophie? Help me understand." She looked up, eyes filled with tears. "He makes me feel seen. Important. Like I matter. The way you used to, before everything became about work and deadlines and the mortgage." It hit me like a punch in the chest. Not because it was cruel. Because she wasn't wrong. We had slipped into routine. Comfortable, predictable. I had taken us for granted, and maybe she had too. "He makes you feel seen," I repeated, pacing the kitchen. "And that justifies what? Sneaking around? Hiding things from me?" "I'm not justifying anything," she said, wincing. "I'm trying to explain. Explain how things evolved." I echoed. Like it was some kind of natural process I should have just expected. "That's not what I meant." I stopped, leaned on the counter, and looked straight at her. "How long?" She stared into her mug. "We met 5 months ago at a foundation meeting. It was just professional. At first. And then coffee after meetings. Then lunch. We talked about work, about our dreams, about things I used to talk to you about. Before you got so wrapped up in the lakefront project." It hurt, because part of it was true. I had been buried in that tower development downtown. Late nights. Missed dinners. But that didn't excuse where we were now. "So this is my fault?" I asked, biting back the emotion. "No," she said firmly. "I'm not blaming you. These were my choices." "Has he been here? In our house?" The thought made my stomach turn. "In our bed?" "God, no." "Ethan, I told you, it's not physical." "Yet," I muttered. "It's not physical yet." She had no answer to that. I rubbed my face, feeling the rough stubble dig into my palm. "I need the truth, Sophie. All of it. No more half-truths." Over the next hour, she told me everything. His name was Lucas Bennett, 37, financial advisor. He started volunteering for the Cancer Foundation a couple of years ago after losing his mom to breast cancer. And that was just the beginning. What started as harmless coffee breaks had slowly turned into long lunches. Then came the texts, constant, casual. Phone calls during her drive home. Inside jokes. Shared thoughts, secrets. It was everything you'd call an emotional affair, just without the official label. He knows you exist, she said quietly. I talk about you. Well, how thoughtful of you, I replied, my voice thick with sarcasm. Does he know I saw you last night? That I walked out while you were so close to him? She shook her head, and tears started falling again. I didn't even realize you'd left until the event was almost over, she said. I couldn't find you anywhere. I thought maybe you'd gone to get some air, or maybe hit the hotel bar. And when I didn't answer your calls, your texts, I panicked, she whispered. That's when I knew. You must have seen us. And that's when it hit me, how it must have looked to you. How it looked, I repeated, coldly. Not how it was. Right. Ethan, please. Have you told him about last night? About this conversation? She hesitated, just long enough. You've talked to him today, I said. It wasn't even a question anymore. He texted, she admitted, eyes down. Just to make sure I got home okay. I told him you weren't here when I got back. Did you tell him why? Another pause. Then, softly, yes. I let out a hollow laugh. So he knows his competition's been exposed. Great. It's not a competition, isn't it? I pushed away from the counter. 'Cause standing here, that's exactly what it feels like. And from what I can tell, I've been losing this one for months without even knowing I was in the damn game. Silence hung between us. I didn't know if our marriage was over. I didn't know if I wanted it to be. I need time, I finally said. And space. Her eyes widened. What does that mean? It means I don't think I can sleep under the same roof as you right now. Not while I'm still trying to come to terms with everything that happened. Ethan, please, we can get through this. Couples do it all the time. Some do, I admitted. But I'm not sure I want to. She recoiled, like my words had hit her harder than I intended. You don't mean that. Don't tell me what I mean, I said, my voice calm but ice cold. You lost that privilege when you decided our marriage wasn't enough. I walked past her into the bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled out the suitcase we'd used for our anniversary weekend in Michigan, just 7 months ago. Sophie stood in the doorway, watching as I packed. I folded shirts without saying a word, socks, jeans, enough for a week. Where will you go? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Probably James's. Maybe a hotel. Haven't decided. For how long? I zipped the suitcase and turned to her. I don't know, Sophie. Honestly, I don't know if I'm coming back. She broke again, crying harder now. But somehow, it didn't move me. Not anymore. Her tears felt distant. Were they tears of regret? Or just fear of the fallout? What about Lucas? I asked, suddenly. Are you going to keep seeing him while I'm gone? She looked hurt. No. Of course not. Why not? I challenged. If he makes you feel so seen, so understood, why cut it off now just 'cause I found out? Because I love you, she whispered. I never stopped loving you. Those words should have been comforting. They weren't. They made me mad. That's not love, Sophie. Love doesn't go looking for attention from someone else when things get tough. Love doesn't hide text messages or sneak around for lunch dates. Love doesn't slow dance with another man while your husband watches from across the room. I grabbed the suitcase off the bed. I'm just gonna grab a few things from the bathroom. Then I'm gone. Can we at least talk more? Maybe with a counselor, before you make a final decision. I paused at the door. Maybe, but not today. 15 minutes later, I was loading the suitcase into my car. Sophie stood on the porch, arms wrapped around herself, watching me leave the life we'd built together. For a second, I almost gave in. I almost turned back, walked up those stairs, and said we'd figure it out. But then I remembered what I saw last night, what I heard today, and I got in the car and drove. In my rearview mirror, I watched her silhouette shrink into the background until she was gone. As I turned onto the main road, my phone buzzed. I expected another message from Sophie. An apology. A plea. But it wasn't her. It was James. How'd it go? You okay? I typed out a quick reply. She admitted everything. Heading to you now. I'll explain when I get there. His answer came back fast. Doors open. Beers cold. Take your time. And for the first time since the gala, I felt something that wasn't pain or anger. Gratitude. At least in this mess, I wasn't completely alone. The hotel room had become my new home, for now. After spending 4 nights crashing at James's place, I realized I needed a little more space. Space to think, to breathe, to just be alone for a while. I checked into the Harborline Suites downtown. Nothing fancy, but clean, quiet, and anonymous. The kind of place where nobody asked questions. It had a bar downstairs, too, which was convenient for nursing a whiskey while I tried to piece together what was left of my life. Sophie had been texting me every day since I left. Some messages were full of apologies. Others were about random stuff around the house, bills, laundry, the dog, and some were straight up begging me to talk. I only answered the ones that needed a reply. The rest, I left unread. I knew it was hurting her. Honestly, maybe that was part of the reason I kept the silence going. 1 week after I walked out, I was sitting at the bar, staring into a glass of whiskey when my phone lit up. It was James. "Hey." I picked up. "Hey. Just checking in," he said. "Haven't heard from you in a couple days." "I'm still breathing. Getting by." "Sophie called me." I sat up a little straighter. "What? When?" "This morning. She's worried about you. Said you're barely responding." "Did you tell her where I'm staying?" "Nope," James said firmly. "Not my place to do that. But man, you can't hide out in a hotel forever." He was right. As much as I didn't want to hear it, he was right. I'd taken a week off work using the old family emergency excuse. But real life wasn't going to wait forever. Deadlines, bills, and decisions that weren't going to make themselves. "I know," I sighed. "I'm just not ready to face her yet." "I get that. But there's something else," he said, and I heard a change in his tone. "I did a little digging on this Lucas guy." My grip tightened around the phone. "And, well, turns out he's been spotted with other women, before Sophie. Always married. Always women tied to the foundation somehow. Word is, he likes the chase." That cold, familiar anger started building again. "So she's just another name on his list," I said quietly. "Looks that way," James replied. "Thought you should know." After I hung up, I just sat there for a while, staring at the amber liquid in my glass. James's words echoed in my head. Sophie wasn't special to this guy. She was just another target for his ego trip. And weirdly, that didn't make me angrier. It actually gave me clarity. This wasn't really about Lucas. It was about us. What did we let our marriage become? What did we stop doing? Long before some guy like Lucas even showed up. I pulled out my phone and, for the first time in days, I sent Sophie a message. "Me. We need to talk. Tomorrow. 7:30 p.m. Neutral Ground. The coffee shop on Jefferson Street." She replied instantly. "Sophie, I'll be there." "Thank you, Ethan." As I set my phone down, I realized something. I already knew what I was going to say. I just didn't know if she was ready to hear it. I got to the coffee shop 20 minutes early and grabbed a table in the back corner. It wasn't crowded, thank God. Whatever happened tonight, I didn't want an audience. At exactly 7:30, Sophie walked in. She looked different. Not dramatically, but enough for me to notice. A little thinner. Her clothes hung off her like they didn't quite fit anymore. She had dark circles under her eyes. And her hair was pulled back in a plain ponytail, not her usual tidy, put-together style. She saw me and paused, just for a second, then walked over slowly, like she wasn't sure if she'd be welcome. I motioned to the chair across from me. She sat down carefully. "Thanks for meeting me," she said softly. I nodded. "Want something to drink?" "I'm fine." She fidgeted with her wedding ring, something she'd done since the day we got married. "How are you?" she asked. "Managing," I said. I looked at her face, trying to read it. Was she sorry? Scared? Still in love? Honestly, it looked like all of the above, along with a deep, bone-level exhaustion that matched what I felt inside. "Have you been in contact with Lucas?" She flinched, but didn't look away. "He's called. He's texted." I haven't answered. "Why not?" I asked. "If he made you feel so understood, so seen, why ignore him now?" Her voice hardened. "Because I finally saw what he really is. He doesn't care about me. I'm just another challenge to him. Another married woman he could pull into his orbit." "James told you?" I asked. She shook her head. "No. I found out on my own. After you left, I started digging. I found 2 other women, also married, also involved in the foundation. Same story." I nodded slowly, letting that sink in. Then I asked the question that had been bouncing around in my head for days. "What about us? Do we have a pattern too?" "Yes," she said quietly. "We stopped trying. We stopped noticing each other. We forgot why we chose each other in the first place." Her honesty caught me off guard. "I haven't been the husband you deserved," I said, finally admitting out loud what I'd been thinking for a while. "I've been distant, buried in work. And instead of telling you what I needed, I just shut down. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't interrupt. So where does that leave us? She asked softly. Truth was, I'd asked myself that same question 100 times over the past week. Lying on a stiff hotel mattress, staring up at a popcorn ceiling, trying to figure out if 13 years of marriage could, or should, survive something like this. I'd weighed all the good memories against the pain of what she'd done, stacked what we'd built over the years next to what we'd lost in a matter of weeks. I don't know if I can trust you again, I said, not looking away. But I also don't know if I'm ready to throw away 13 years. She held her breath. So what are you saying? I'm saying I want to try, I said, surprising even myself with the words. I'm not promising anything. Not forgiveness. Not a reset button. But I'm willing to try. Okay, she whispered. With boundaries, I added. And counseling. A wave of relief washed over her face, but it wasn't blind joy. It was cautious, like she knew just how fragile this moment was. When will you come home? She asked. Not yet, I said. I still need some space. Some time to clear my head. But maybe soon. She nodded. She understood what I was giving her. Not a clean slate. Not a second chance. Not yet. Just a crack in the door where there used to be a wall. As we walked out of the coffee shop into the cool Milwaukee night, Sophie stopped under a street lamp. The light hit half her face, leaving the other in shadow. I love you, Ethan, she said. I never stopped. Even when I lost my way. I didn't say it back. I couldn't. Not yet. But for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt something inside me shift. Not hope exactly, but something close. Something that might, with enough time and honesty, grow into trust again. I'll call you tomorrow, I told her. Then I walked to my car alone, the night air sharp against my skin. I didn't know what the future looked like. And maybe that was okay. Because sometimes, the hardest choices are the ones that leave the ending unwritten.